Defining DeFi Hackathon, Moralis and Google. 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 Defining Hackathon, 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 Moralis and Google. 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 Moralis and Google.
Good morning, developers, hackathon builders, and DeFi participants. We are super excited for another hackathon live stream today for Moralis and Google defining DeFi. If you're joining us for the very first time, it is not too late to get registered. There is still a little more than 24 hours to get registered for this event. I think it's just over 24 plus 12 hours left. Get registered right away. We want to see as many excellent projects as possible at this event, and we're really excited to see what you all bring to the table. To help equip you for success, we are joined today by Lai Bing of Covalent, and he's going to be doing a live coding session with us, sharing his screen, showing some slides as well. It's going to be really exciting, so strap in. We've got a great presentation ahead of us. Lai Bing, welcome to the stage. Oh, I think you're muted still. My mistake.
I'm sorry. Always forget to click the unmute button. But thank you, Phil. Really excited to be here. Really excited to participate as Covalent as part of the Defining DeFi Hackathon. We've sponsored 5,000 stablecoin USDC or USDT bounty for any project that makes use of the Covalent API in this hackathon, and it's going to be a big one.
Now, this is actually the third hackathon, if I'm not mistaken, this year that Covalent is sponsored with us. Is that right?
That's right.
Yeah, excellent. Well, we're so happy to have you guys back again. Let me get your screen up here so everybody can see what we can see.
Awesome. So for today's session, I'll briefly go over what Covalent is, what kind of problem it tries to solve, and also just go with you through a live coding session to look at how you're going to build some of the common DeFi use cases, for instance, like a balance page that you see in lots of DeFi applications like wallets, taxation tools, even bridges, right? And DEXs as well. And if time permits, we're going to try to build like one of those pages, analytics pages like info.uniswap. I think that's going to be fun. So strap up, get a cup of coffee, and let's get straight into it. So what is Covalent? I wouldn't touch the history of the web. I think if you are here today, you would already know the main broad differences between Web 1, Web 2, and Web 3. So Covalent believes that in the future, it'll be multi-chain and there'll be dozens of single and multi-use blockchains, right? And with that future, there is a data challenge. And the data challenge is that multi-chain data is typically very difficult to get. if you are, using your own, hosting your own node, it is prohibitively expensive and CPU intensive for most people, which is why we use cloud storage, cloud RPC, JSON RPC providers. And when you try to query the data, it is extremely difficult to get in aggregated formats, right? And if you're building an app that requires top-level aggregated data, that is typically very difficult. So we saw the need for a unified solution, and hence we standardize the unstructured blockchain data into structured endpoints for you to use within your applications. So all the data is queryable from the cloud. It is a traditional REST API. You can query it from the browser or from the environment of your code. We have also created the Covalent network, which is a way for more participants to participate in both the data provision as well as the indexing. Wouldn't get into details of the Covalent network, but this is the model that we have progressed toward as an organization. And it involves users, validators, BSP, block specimen producers, and indexers. And this very vibrant ecosystem provides and indexes data within our schema here. So users tend to be analysts and crypto developers. All right, so that's just a brief background of Covalent as well as the problem that we're trying to solve. Let's get into the main bulk of today's session, which is building an actual DeFi application. All right, so I'm going to start with this. So as you know, wallets like MetaMask, like Rainbow Wallet or Trust Wallet, whoever that you use, you will need typically a page that has your balances, right? And it looks, what it looks like this. You're holding this coin, how much amount, this other coin, how much amount, etc. Now, how do you get this data? I've kind of prepared like a little GitHub repo that you guys can follow along. And I'm going to drop it. Let's see, maybe I can just drop it in the chat here. And you should be able to follow along. But if not, this will be the URL, right? And all you should do is just to clone it into your local desktop, and you can start using it. So let's try doing that. I'm going to start with maybe like cd to my GitHub projects folder and git clone this repo. I hope the text isn't too small here. Okay, so what this repo looks like is, I'm going to remove this one because this is not the one that GitHub projects, live coding balances, and we have it here. All right, so we have this, and it is a repo in React. So to follow along, I think for this case, you will need a little bit of background about React, but if you don't know much of React, you can, it is just, you can kind of still follow along, although some of the code will seem a little bit tricky to understand, but I'm sure you'll do fine because I'll be explaining most of the, what the code is doing. All right, so within this repo, we've got a balances component. It's a very simple project, right? With a balances component that returns this table. Now, let's look at annoying lint errors. Let's take a look at what this looks like. So first, you need to npm I to install the packages. Oh, sorry. I forgot the CD into the folder. Classic error. Live coding balances and PMI. So there's not many packages that this component needs, just like 2 or 3. And it should be good to go. And then npm start to let you take a look what this page looks like. We've got it on the left here. A little bit slow. All right, so you see this component. So this component is created with the help of Ant Design. If you guys don't know Ant Design, they are like quite a good UI library in React, right? So I just grabbed the basic UI table component here, and I populated it with some dummy data. And you can see that there's some dummy data here. I'm gonna increase the font size so that it's easier to see. Got a table component with some dummy data, and the dummy data is literally like an array of objects that you can find in the utils helper section. The dummy data is this. It is an array of 2 objects, each of them containing some fields that relate to this token in question. So we've got here fake coin, represented by FKC symbol with balance of 100, and we've got troll coin, represented by the symbol of DAI, and obviously a fake contract address here. Now, let's go back to our component here. So classic React page. How do you start pulling real life data into this app, right? I've already created 2 states here, and so I'm going to replace the dummy data with real life data of a random wallet address that I found on Etherscan. So this is the random wallet address, right? I've already supplied it into the props of balances, but actually I'm just using dummy data here. Now we're going to get real life data. Now, what do? First of all, I think you can create within the .env, you can create like, you get a Covalent API key, and then you put it here. I wouldn't really click on it because that would expose my own API key, but I would just call it here. Constant API key equals to, and I know that it will be, sorry, process.env react at Covalent API key. So within my .env, I've saved it as this variable, right? And it literally looks like this in my .env. Yada, yada, yada. That's my API key. All right, so we've got the Covalent API key, and the API key is for free that you can get from the Covalent HQ website. You can just go there and get a free API key. And then you will need to start calling the data. And for this, I use the famous Axios library. I'll use it within effects hook. Now, what's the URL that I'm going to get? Right, and here you find yourself asking, what data does Covalent actually have? And good question. Let me bring you to the Covalent documentation. And you can see that we've got different kinds of endpoints. We've got balances endpoints, we've got NFT endpoints, we've got transactions endpoints, we've got this thing called base endpoints. For this use case, I want to get the wallet balances. So I know that the balances endpoint, this is the one that I want to get. And it looks like this, right? So this is the query string. I'm gonna show you guys to another tool that you guys can use, which is a Postman collection that we have created. And within the Postman collection, it is a collection that contains all of our endpoints. And you can basically sample all the Covalent data from the comfort of your browser. And I'm gonna put this in the chat as well. So you can just fork this Postman collection into your own workspace and you can start using it, right? After you supply your API key. And in this case, I want the balances endpoint. And the balances endpoint looks like this. And I'm going to copy it. And I'm going to balances endpoint. And here, I'll change it to variable chain ID. Chain ID is passed as a prop here. So it's wallet address, which in this case is all right. So we've got this balances endpoint, which will supply here. And you actually need a bit of authorization because you pass in your API key through the auth header. So we use basic auth, which in the context of Axios is reproduced like this. Username being your API key here. All right, and we supply that as the second argument. And let's see. Let's console log this. And I need this to not create an infinite loop. And let's see where it takes us. Okay, we got an object. We got the data that we need. The data is as follows, right? So for this address that we supplied, this person or address holds all these tokens, right? And we would need to populate each of these.
Li Bing, can we zoom in a little bit on what you're showing right there?
Is it this one?
Yes, that's a bit better. Let us know in the chat
awesome.
if you're still struggling to see it, but I think that'll help. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks, guys. Yeah, so I'm using a white screen here, and if you're watching on your phone, I don't know how to help you, but I guess you can just listen to my explanation of it. And as fast as possible, I'm gonna try to really maximize the zoom on each of these to disproportional levels.
And the recording will be available later too, in case you need to pause and go back and things like that. So,
yep. Thanks, Phil. That's a excellent reminder. So yeah, so we see after getting the balances that this person gets all these endpoints, all these holds all these tokens, right? And all we need to do is to start populating it, replacing this dummy data with live data that we got. And so in this case, we would need to just update the state. I've already created two state variables. and I'm not using this one actually because I'm not using a loader. So set data to be res dot data dot data. That's actually two data levels here, and then dot items. And I believe the data will be this. And then we need to change this to data, and hopefully that'll work. There we go. So let me just zoom this out a little bit. All right. Hopefully this page looks familiar to you. This is the balances page that you see in a lot of applications, right? You see it in wallet applications. You see it in the drop down on apps like Uniswap, right? Like Uniswap. This essentially, right? This is like a very classic page that you have on DEXs. And this basically pulls the user's wallet balance. And in this case, the address applied is the one that you signed in with. Yep. So this is the first one that we got. As you can see, the code is just super simple. You get the data using the endpoint, and you supply it in whatever that you want. I think I happen to see this question here. Can I get all ERC-721 token balances in one call from Covalent API without the need to know NFT contract address? Yes, you can. So that is the power of the Covalent API. So let's see. We want to get the ERC-721, right? So for those of you who are not familiar with what that is, that just means NFTs. I believe you just changed this to NFT equals to true, but NFT equals to true, and then that might return you all the NFTs. I don't know whether this person is holding on to any NFTs, but let's see. Oh, there we go. We see that this person is holding on to 2 NFTs. I'll try to make this text bigger. Is it this text? This person is holding on to 2 NFTs, right? We didn't need to know the contract address of all the NFTs, but now we know this person is holding on to some Flipside Shroom Decay and Pulley supporter, right? So that is essentially the problem that we're trying to solve with Covalent API. With traditional approaches of pulling data such as JSON RPC, you will need to know the contract address of the token that the user is holding, which is a catch-22 situation, right? For most cases, if you know, in the first instance, you don't know what tokens the person is holding, but you need to supply its contract address. So that is a very tricky problem that the balances endpoint, for instance, will be able to solve. Yeah, so this is just a quick demo, and you guys can, if you're following along, this should be fairly straightforward for now. Now let's try to get a little bit more adventurous. He still holds on to more NFTs. We said that we want to build some DeFi applications, and one of the big categories of DeFi is DEXs, right? And within DEXs, we see that they always have this DEX analytics page, which gives insight into what kind of pools they are on a DEX, what are its 24-hour volume, its 7-day volume, what's some of the number of swaps that you can get, right? So how do you get all this data. Again, if you're using JSON RPC, you can supply, I suppose, the pool contract address, right? And then after that, you make a contract call to make a read call to the contract state. And for instance, on Etherscan, let's say you've got the DAI USDC pool, which has this address. And this is where all the data is stored, right? You can get like certain information from here. Like for instance, what's this first token, second token, what fee is it, and the liquidity positions, provided that you know the address here. So you can either do that, which is not very convenient, or you can make a call to this class of endpoints called the xy equals to k endpoints. So xy equals to k endpoints refer to the DEX endpoints, right? And if you're unfamiliar, xy equals to k is the constant product formula, which is why we called it that. And it supports a whole series of DEXs. Like on Ethereum, it supports Uniswap, SushiSwap. On Matic or Polygon, it supports QuickSwap. On Phantom, we support a Spirit Swap, Spooky Swap, etc., right? Trader Joe on Avalanche. And this endpoint in particular allows you to get all the pools within Uniswap, for instance. Let's try to query it and see what kind of data we get. And for that, I'm just gonna use my other workspace because it has my API key in it. And let's see what kind of data. Hold on, it's not this one. What kind of data is being returned? And again, you can fork this collection and be able to make calls to this endpoint yourself. So xy equals to k endpoints, the requests look like this, right? You input the chain ID as well as the DEX name. And in this case, it is Uniswap v2. We'll make a call, and this is what is returned. Now, I'm going to make it bigger because you'll have a hard time seeing this response. So as you can see, there's a lot of data. And you see that all we supplied is the DEX name. But within each item, it is the information of one pool. Here we have the information of this pool, which is actually a XGG and USDT pool. And you have the 7-day volume quote in USD here. Here we have a second pool, which is a WISE token and a Rep ETH pool. And you have the total liquidity quote, the 24-hour swap count, and total supply, etc. Of course, using this raw data, you can easily pipe them into a table form, right? Which will look exactly like this, the top pools. So once you pipe it into table form, and I don't think I'll need to do that over again, it will look like this. This endpoint get xy equals to k pools will allow you to make a front end that looks like this. Now, as you can see, Covalent's solution is very front-end based. The data that we get from the API feeds directly into your front-end stack, like React, Vue, or whatever that you use, vanilla JavaScript. And you don't have to interact with the blockchain backend at all, right? Which makes it neat if all you want to do is to generate a front end for your app. And if you are a protocol developer, you wrote a whole bunch of smart contracts, you have all your engineering resources dedicated to the security of your DEX application, for instance. The last thing you want to do is to find out, do all the piping of the data manually into your front end. And so this is a quick solution for any team that wants to churn up like a front end interface that looks nice without having to worry about like making tedious calls, etc. So let's say you go into one of the pools and it is a USDC pool, right? How many transactions are being done within that pool? Again, using traditional JSON RPC, something like this is just very difficult or prohibitively tedious to build. Whereas if you use the API here, you can use an endpoint such as, I believe, this one. So this endpoint is called get XYZK transactions for exchange, which is this endpoint. I think the name is a bit counterintuitive, but it's all right. And this is the kind of response that you get. So all these are the transactions that's been done to the USDC pool. And as you can see, there was a remove liquidity event. There was an add liquidity event. So the dates are, called at a previous time because this is not a live pooling of the data. I've already kind of preloaded it so that you can just get a general sense of the response structure. You can, of course, call it yourself to get the most live data out there. And another remove liquidity event, add liquidity, etc. So you get very granular insights into what is going on within a liquidity pool almost instantaneously. And of course, this applies to all the blockchains that we support. And we support currently 30 plus blockchains, right? They're all EVM based. And we've also recently expanded into app chains such as DeFi Kingdoms and Swimmer. So that is very exciting. Even within the Cosmos ecosystem, we've indexed FMOS, which allows you to get FMOS on-chain data as well. And you can basically query all these from the comfort of a browser by clicking on this, and it changes the chain ID on the query string, and you can click run to get a live response. So yeah, this endpoint allows you to build something like Uniswap's transaction page. And of course, the volume and liquidity, this can be built using, I believe, pools by address. It gives you the 24-hour volume, 24-hour liquidity of 7-day volume time series, which allows you to build this. Right? It's a time series data. And it also has a 30-day time series, I believe, within that same response, volume 30-day time series. So it's very, very data rich. And I think they also have liquidity time series, which allows you to build this. Not sure if they have fees in the data response. I think they might. Okay, never mind. It's too long for me to scroll, but you get the idea. All these DEX front ends can be built using the Covalent API very easily. So for the defining DeFi hackathon, if you want to build like a smart contract, right? Solidity-based smart contract, or whichever, or if you want to build in whichever ecosystem, you can easily build the front end aspect with calls to the API and spend most of your energy getting your protocol or like backend development right. Yep, I think that is about all that we have here. Apart from that, we also have the Covalent knowledge base, which is like more resources for you to get inspired if you want to see what are some of the projects that's been built on us, right? We have got wallet projects, NFT projects, DEX projects, and DAO projects that's all built with Covalent API. And we have also this article, which is a tutorial on how to integrate the API, fork the API into your Postman workspace so that you can call it very easily to get a sample of it. And we've got some FAQ section. If you have any questions, please come here first. And if you have further questions, you can head to our Covalent Discord under the developer support channel. We are pretty active there, and you can get responses for all your questions. But yeah, if not, all the best for your builds. I'm really excited to be able to present this solution for you to try out at the Moralis Google Cloud Hackathon. And thanks for staying with me through this short demo session here. We can probably open it up to questions, right, Phil?
Yeah, absolutely. And I thank you, Li Bing. That was perfect. Amazing overview there. I know that a lot of people have come to me personally and said, I'm interested in Covalent, but I want to know where it really excels. And I think we got down to the details on that really well. Now,
Yeah.
I have one question here I'm going to put up on the screen. It's
Okay.
very basic. Is Covalent like the graph? So obviously, for those of you who don't know, the graph is another blockchain protocol that is used by a lot of exchanges to provide analytics. So, Li Bing, is there overlap there between what they do and what you guys do, or what does that look like?
Yes, we are both data providers, right? And the graph is a great tool. It provides data using the GraphQL stack. So it's a different way of querying the data. You saw how I queried the data just now. Basically, I typed something into the browser, and then I changed the query string. When you ask whether you can get NFT tokens, I added the query parameter NFT equals to true, right? Everything happens at the query string level. The graph, you need to first, I think, build a subgraph, and then you query it using the GraphQL query language. But basically, the data is the same for the data that we index. It depends on which style you prefer and your workflow. Yeah.
All right. I see that we have a late joiner here who was actually here early, Boris. Boris, this is an invitation to you along with everybody else. If you guys have additional questions as you're going through this again, maybe you came a little bit late. I'm going to be in Gathertown here for the next hour, starting in about 20 minutes. There's a link in the description, so go ahead and click that link. Li Bing, if you have time, you're more than welcome to join us. We'd love to have you there for even a few minutes if you have time.
Yes, I will. I'll be there this time. The last time, I think I missed out on it. I didn't really know what Gathertown is. And then I checked it out, but no one was there. I hopped around for a bit, moved around. It was great. I'm going to be there later.
Perfect. Yep, we have 2 sessions today, one coming up in 20 minutes, like I said, one coming up later on in the day. Check the official hackathon calendar for details on that. I'll be at both, along with some other people from the community engineers and from the events team. So really, any questions you have about this hackathon, Moralis, Covalent, other protocols that are sponsoring with us, just come on in, bring your questions, and we'll have a great time hanging out together. So on that note, I'll see everybody in GatherTown. Again, the link is in the description. Click it right there. There's also a link in Discord. And you all have a wonderful day. We'll see you soon.
Take care, guys.